Hello and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. My name is Omar Pinto, the host of the Share Podcast and a founding member of the SRC, the Share Recovery Community. In the SRC, we have a number of live online recovery meetings every week on a number of different topics. This podcast is only one example of the content provided to our members. In this meeting, a chapter of the Tao Te Ching is discussed every week as to how it relates to recovery. I hope you enjoy this week's podcast episode.
Hey guys, Buddy C. This is our Tao Te Ching meeting for January 3rd, 2019. I have Lala and Kate and Craig and Marla with us today. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, talk to me.
Gonna be a good one.
It is. I was happy with 2018, and I'm ready for a good 2019. Continue. Second verse, same as the first for me. Just continue on. You know what that means, Craig? Second verse, same as the first. Does that make sense to you?
No, I'm empty.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
I'm back to work today, so nothing's making sense.
Well,
Okay.
sorry.
The little church I was raised in, they had hymns with 3, and most of them had 4 verses to the hymn. And so they would sing verses and then they would skip one. And sometimes they would use the second verse same as the first, meaning you sing the second verse of the hymn. Okay. So it's kind of a saying that it's just like you want it to be just like it was. So that's but that's a typical thing here in the South, Craig. But I want to talk for a minute. We talked last week about some of the characteristics of God, and one was emptiness, and I'd never really thought of God as being empty. So I did some study on that this week and just really meditated and prayed on that. I was in my meeting Sunday, and somebody mentioned the Serenity Prayer. So I said, I wonder if that fits in the Serenity Prayer, because, I learned that I could do some substitutes in the steps. Like anywhere it said God, I could put love, for example, and it worked. I don't know have y'all ever done that or looked at that? It works really well, actually. It's, let's see, give you an example of that. I grabbed my book right quick. Came to believe that love could restore us to sanity. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of love as we understood love. So, the words like love, you could replace, things like that, because God is love. So if our higher power is love, we should be able, and the book itself says that these steps are suggestive only. So don't anybody get their panties in a wad about, playing with the steps, But I was looking at that, and emptiness with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the emptiness to accept the things I cannot change. Wow. Grant me and the emptiness to change the things I can. And how about the emptiness to know the difference? Because everything that I'm seeing in all of our Tao stuff is about making room. It's the usefulness is in the space, right? Talking about the empty cup. It's the emptiness that makes us useful. I was listening to Andy the other day on Headspace. He was talking about separating yourself from your thoughts to leave some space there so that you could learn that your thoughts are not you. And I was like, that's emptiness. He's talking about emptiness. So I think we are not even to the tip of the iceberg on that. I mean, I think we just don't even, we can barely even see a glimpse of it. We have no idea what all is there with that. But just something to think about, That has been really good for me this week. I've just started seeing emptiness everywhere, trying to, it's not God giving me the emptiness, really. It's me realizing it's there because it's there the whole time,
Yeah.
So you guys ready to proceed, or y'all got any thoughts on that?
Too many.
Too many? Okay.
It does make a lot of sense because the emptiness is already there. I think we're just filling it with too much nonsense.
Yeah. Because we're going to fill it with ourselves, Craig. We want it to be all about us.
Yeah, we're filling it with too much nonsense. I mean, God grant me the serenity. Why would I want serenity for emptiness?
Yeah.
It's asking for something else for myself.
Yeah.
And it's something else that I don't really need because I've got far too much on my plate as it is.
Yeah. Because it's that even fits right in. Now, what I did too with that was anytime, I come from a Christian background, so anytime that I get an idea like that, I want to see if I can find it somewhere in the Bible and in Christian thought, because that still is my filter for most anything that I believe. I take through that filter. That's how I do it. So I said, okay, well, where can I find emptiness in that? And then I started thinking about it. I said, it's everywhere. Because it's not the fact of being empty in the way that we think about it, I think. It's about being empty in that I'm not pursuing my own interests empty. Like when Paul said, the weaker I get, the stronger I become. Same kind of thing. It's the surrender. It's that I'm not pursuing my own agenda here. That kind of a thing, So I think that's the key to the emptiness. But anyway, I thought that was pretty good. I'm going to keep looking and digging into that. I'm sure we're going to see that. We've seen it before in here. I'm sure we're going to see it more as we continue because, we're on chapter, 26 out of 81. So I know we're going to see that a lot more as we go forward. You guys ready to jump into 26?
Yeah.
Let me share my, if you can read for us, Kate, I'll let you go ahead. And if you would, please read the four translations.
Sure. All right, chapter 26, the first translation. The heavy is the root of the light. The still is the master of unrest. Therefore, the sage, traveling all day, does not lose sight of his baggage. Though there are beautiful things to be seen, he remains unattached and calm. Why should the Lord of 10,000 chariots act lightly in public? To be light is to lose one's root. To be restless is to lose one's control. Second translation. The heavy is the root of the light. The unmoved is the source of all movement. Thus the master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, she stays serenely in herself. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. Third translation. Heaviness is the basis of lightness. Stillness is the standard of activity. Thus the master travels all day without ever leaving her wagon. Even though she has much to see, she is at peace in her indifference. Why should the Lord of 1,000 chariots be amused at the foolishness of the world? If you abandon yourself to foolishness, you lose touch with your beginnings. If you let yourself become distracted, you will lose the basis of your power. And the final translation. To be light on your feet, you need a steady mind. If your body is active, your mind should be relaxed. A master can travel long distances and still see everything she owns. She may be surrounded by beauty, but she isn't caught up in it. Why run around thoughtlessly? If you act lightly, you lose your bearings. If you act recklessly, you lose your self-control.
It's about having a really strong foundation, a basis, a guide, something that forms your base, that no matter what happens, like a tree, you don't get blown over. That's part of what I got out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the, I'm going to mute you. Is it Marla? Is that your dog, Marla?
Yeah.
I got it.
I thought it was my dog barking at the postman, but I'm thinking I don't have a dog.
All right. I was looking at this, and I got a couple of things out of this. First, it talks about the heavy is the root of the light. The still is the master of unrest. The still is the master of unrest. So it's the stillness that overcomes the unrest. Back to meditation, back to all of that. She's at peace in her indifference, surrounded by beauty, but she isn't caught up in it. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. And what I understand from all of the commentaries and things that I read about this is talking about being disturbed by your circumstances. And we'll talk about, Wayne Dyer goes into that, but talking about being distracted, losing our self-control, acting recklessly when we have responsibilities of the world. The Lord of 10,000 Chariots, they said, is a reference to your daily responsibilities. This is like a lot of these, this can really be talking about just everyday life. The master traveling all day without leaving home is talking about the journey of life. That you stay grounded for the day, that you don't let the things that's going on disturb you. So that you remain content. That these things don't move you.
Equanimity.
Yes. And if y'all want to, we'll go. Any comments before we go to the commentaries? I know some things will open up the commentaries for us to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead, Craig, with the Derek Lynn?
Yep, just give me a wee second. All right, so chapter 26. Heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. Therefore, the sages travel the entire day without leaving the heavy supplies. Even though there are luxurious sights, they are composed and transcend beyond. How can the lords of 10,000 chariots apply themselves lightly to the world? To be light is to lose one's root. To be restless is to lose one's mastery. So, I'm getting a lot of opposites in that, a lot of possible paradoxes coming through in that. The first note in the translation is heaviness here refers to the quality of gravitas in human affairs. Although Tao sages possess a gentle sense of humour, they are able to approach a situation with appropriate degree of seriousness when necessary. This attribute is often associated with deliberation and dignity. Lightness is the opposite, a frivolous disregard for the matter at hand. In this context, it is often associated with restlessness and carelessness. Travel refers to the journey of life, and the heavy supplies are the essentials. The most important stuff, the basics. Sages are the ones who traverse through life without ever losing track of the fundamental essence that make us human. Although there are many tempting sights of luxuries, the illusion of the material world that would distract us from the real goal, the sages remain unmoved. And lastly, 10,000 chariots is a metaphor for great responsibility. In life, when we encounter a great responsibility, whether it's an important project of work or starting a family or anything else, we need to approach it with somber attitude and firm footing. Those who treat it lightly will be easily distracted and uprooted by the winds of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So there's a good bit there.
Yeah, so we have to take things seriously.
Well, we have to be well grounded.
Well, nobody told me that.
We're telling you now.
No.
So that's a hard thing for an alcoholic addict, is to be grounded.
Yeah. What I picked up on that is is lightness is the opposite, a frivolous disregard for the matter at hand. And many times did I just say, "Oh, just whatever, I'm not interested." Something serious comes up, and I'm like, I panic because I don't know how to handle it, because I'm just like used to drinking my problems away or managing to slip my way out of actually having to do something responsible. I noticed that the other day. I was having a discussion with my wife, and it was to do with the mortgage. So the mortgage up in the house is up for renewal, so we're looking for different rates. I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? This is things that adults should be doing. And then it kind of clicked that it says, yeah, we need your signature. You're one of the adults. So congratulations, I now have responsibilities.
All right.
What else I find interesting about that is when it was talking about the journey, because I couldn't figure that out in the other translations. It was talking about the sages traveling and they never lose sight of the baggage. I never thought of that as a journey of life. Just for some reason, I've just become distracted from it. And when it's talking about the baggage, I thought to myself, baggage, that's a couple of kids, a couple of dogs, that's baggage. But where it's talking about the basics and the essentials in life that you need, love and relationships, accountability, just your basic needs. That kind of hit home when I was reading that. So I got quite a lot out of that Derek Lynn translation.
Yes, that is good. That is good. Anything else, guys?
I was a bit confused with the because I think 3 out of the 4 translations talked about the 10,000 chariots. Now, I know we've discussed before that the 10,000 is everything, but I'd never heard of anything described as the 10,000 chariots.
That was the first.
And the note on that was it's a metaphor for great responsibility.
They've talked about the 10,000 things as being the entire world. They seem to use the 10,000 to mean everything.
Yeah.
So,
I like the idea of the 10,000 chariots because it's a really good visual of if you're going to take things lightly, the chariots are going to run off in all different directions.
Yeah.
You don't really have a firm grasp on things. If you're just kind of frivolously, but if you're in charge of 10,000 chariots, you really do need to be grounded, and you can't do things lightly. You have to have a firm grasp and a firm resolve. So I like that. Just the visual of it.
And what I understand from alcoholism, I imagine for drug addiction too. They say that when you start drinking, you stop maturing.
When you start drinking.
Yes. At the age that you start.
You stay at your maturity level. So I was 13 for a really long time.
Exactly. And so that's part of this, is that here we are, we may be 35, 40 years old when we come in, and if we've been drinking since we were 15 or 12 or whatever, we stop maturing at that time. So here we are, we're 35, 15-year-olds, And so we never learned responsibility because we shirked it or someone else did it for us, So
I think that's really where I am at the moment. Kind of realizing the fact that, it's not a joke anymore.
You got more than one dynamic happening there too, Craig, because not only have you shirked the responsibility for those years, Someone else is taking those responsibilities up that you should have been handling. So now you've got a relationship with a spouse that you have to work that relationship out and work those things out with them now. So, and that's addressed in the big book too, that they talk about that a lot, about the family afterward, you know, and how you, how things change once if the man sobers up, how the wife has been taking all the responsibilities all this time, and how, and there's a lot of healing to take place there, not only with you, but with the family too. So that's why working the steps and having a sponsor and doing all those things is so important, because you've got someone there who's been through this before you and can help with some of that and has some experience with those things a lot of times. So I know in my situation, even though I was a business owner, we built a house, a personal house, and I don't remember doing anything with the house whatsoever. Nothing.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I mean, my wife built it. My wife and my father, they built it. They did everything. I didn't lift one finger. I worked, but now if I were to build a house, gosh, I'd be doing half the work. I mean, it'd be totally different, and I just shirked my responsibilities that whole time, and I remember before I was drinking heavy, my wife and I bought a house at foreclosure and fixed it up. And gosh, it was the difference between what I did in that house and what I did on the one later in my drinking are like night and day. So, I was thinking about that the other day, that how irresponsible I was, even in that regard, So there's a lot of healing for us to allow to happen in our lives, when we start, acting like adults.
We, I think, just going back to the mortgage, we're in the last 10 years of the mortgage. And I remember at the time it was a 25-year mortgage we took out.
Wow.
I'm thinking to myself, where the hell did that last 15 years go? I know time tends to fly a little bit quicker when you get older, or if you're enjoying yourself, but I really can't remember much of those 50. All I can remember is painting. That's all I seem to have done in the past 15 years. But yeah, I see what Buddy's talking about. Just I don't remember much of it buying the house. It was always Louise that led the way on that. It was always somebody else that was at the back of it. It was always somebody else that dealt with the finances for it. And now having to deal with something like that. The last time I had to do this was 5 years ago, so I was still drinking quite heavy 5 years ago. So again, it's just one of those things. I've always said, just whatever. Just it doesn't concern me. Why are you bothering me with this? I've got beer to be drinking. I've got important things to be doing. So my priorities were definitely in the wrong place. And it's good what Lala was saying about the 10,000 chariots just running away. It has. And I think we're slowly just getting hold of these 10,000 chariots and just corralling them back into the one unit rather than having them all over the place. So that was a great analogy. Well done.
Well done, Lao Tzu. I'm following up on yours, Craig. When I first got married, I didn't start recovery till 2008. So when I got married, I really let my husband take over everything. Bills, the decisions, and I thought, this is the way I'm going to have to live my life, is he's going to dictate everything, because I was incapacitated being a dysfunctional alcoholic. But fortunately, that's turned around a bit, and I've taken quite a bit of control of everything.
Is he happy with that, Marla?
He actually is.
That's good.
Yeah, he actually is, because he's a baby too, so he doesn't want responsibilities.
I have had more guys that I have sponsored that their wives were upset that they stopped drinking, that the changes that took place afterward.
Yeah.
Not the fact that they stopped, which they were happy they had stopped, but they didn't realize what all would have to be worked out afterward. It's going to be more than just them stop drinking, and that's a tough walk, especially those 2-3 years first 2 to 3 years after you stop and you start, wait a minute, why are we spending money here? Why do you care now? You haven't cared for 20 years that I've done. And they have to, I said, you have to learn how to work all these things out. And you have to have a crash course in being an adult, really.
You really do. You really do. It's that's the tough part of getting sober is you have to mature and start acting like your age.
I kind of think sometimes I'm just meddling. I'm just meddling in things that I should just leave best alone. Again, we're talking about the mortgage. We're talking about different finances and different projects I want to work on this year. And the main one is saving money. So I'm sat down. I'm simply like, we can save money here. We can save money there. And she's like, my life must have come to something really drastic if you're sitting here telling me how to manage my money.
She's a banker, right?
Yeah. She works in finance. Yeah. Meanwhile, I struggle to have 2 pennies to rub together by the end of the month. I always have more month at the end of my wages than I did before in the past 2 years. And just you talking about maturing, does anybody else still asks if they can get a sweet if they're in the house? Does anybody else say, do you mind if I get a sweet? Or is it just me?
It's just you, Greg.
It is just you. I just take what I want now. Don't ask.
Okay. Wayne Dyer.
Okay.
Dr. Dyer has some good stuff today.
All right, so I'm going to reread the verse.
Please.
26th verse. The heavy is the root of the light. The still is the master of unrest. Realizing this, the successful person is poised and centered in the midst of all activities. Although surrounded by opulence, he is not swayed. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you'll lose touch with your root. To be restless is to lose one's self-mastery. This is all yoga, too.
Yeah, definitely.
In this chapter of the Tao Te Ching, you're being advised to maintain a sense of serenity regardless of what you may see taking place around you. Moreover, you're being told that the true master knows that the ability to stay calm is always located within. From this perspective, there's no need to assign responsibility to others for how you feel. Even though you may live in a world where blame and fault-finding are endemic, you'll own your feelings and actions. You'll know that circumstances don't determine your state of mind, for that power rests with you. When you maintain a peaceful inner posture in the midst of chaos, you change your life. The wisdom of this verse of the Tao Te Ching prompts you to know that you have a choice. Do you want to be in a state of confusion or to have a tranquil inner landscape? It's up to you. Armed with this insight, the Tao Master doesn't allow an external event to be a disturbance. Lao Tzu tells you that assigning blame for your lack of calmness will never bring you to the state of being that you're striving to attain. Self-mastery only blossoms when you practice being aware of and responsible for what you're feeling. 4th step. This particular part of the Tao is one that you'll probably want to immerse yourself in repeatedly. After all, what can be better than the freedom of going through life without feeling that people and circumstances control you without your permission? Are you depressed, irritated, frustrated, exhilarated, ecstatically in love? Whatever your current state, you believe that a changing economic picture or a tapestry of events taking place around you is responsible, and you then use these external factors to explain your inner state of mind. You've lost touch with your root. Why? Because you're allowing yourself to be blown to and fro by the shifting winds of circumstance. The solution for a life of unrest is choosing stillness. The quiet of the Tao is oblivious to any turmoil in the world of the 10,000 things. Be like the Tao, advises Lao Tzu. The still is the master of unrest. You have a choice in every moment, so you can decide to be a host to God and carry around with you the calmness that is the Tao, Or you can be a hostage to your ego, which insists that you can't really help feeling disorderly when you're in circumstances that resemble pandemonium. Here's what Lao Tzu offers to you in this profoundly simple passage. From the profoundly simple life he chose 2,500 years before yours. Vow to seek a calm inner response to the circumstances of your life. In the midst of any kind of unrest, be it an argument, a traffic jam, a monetary crisis, or anything at all, make the immediate decision that you will find the calm center of yourself by not thinking of what's taking place and instead taking a few deep breaths in which you opt to empty your mind of judgments. It becomes impossible to mentally flit about like a fool. You have the innate ability to choose calmness in the face of situations that drive others to madness. Your willingness to do so, especially when chaos and anger have been your previous choices, puts you in touch with the master of unrest. There was a time when I thought this was impossible. Now I know that even in the most troublesome of times, my reaction is to choose stillness, the way of the Tao.
I think there's a lot in here that relates to addiction and recovery. Like flitting about, where was that one?
Right.
I was thinking that too.
Blown to and fro. You know, in our addiction, we were just doing that. And now, and losing touch with our root, you know, but now that we're in recovery, we need to be in touch with our root and not be, I don't remember exactly the term that it used, but yeah, flitting about like a fool.
Yeah. Don't flit around.
Right? Because we were doing that. And I was thinking about, like, in the first translation, it says, though there are beautiful things to be seen, he remains unattached and calm. And it made me, and I don't know how Wayne Dyer said something about, like, opulence.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about how that kind of seems like the way, like, it's like things are beautiful, but it's like false beautiful things that are distracting us from what reality is. And how, that's how my addiction kind of plays with my head. And it tells me, like, go use drugs. It's really fun. They're really great. You'll feel really good. You know, but it's not real beauty. That's not real good, beautiful things that I should go move towards. It's like a false sense of beauty that I need to remain unattached and calm from, because that's not reality. So it looks like a beautiful, opulent thing to me, but it's not. That's not really something I should be going towards. So in my recovery, I need to remain unattached and calm from that false sense of beauty, that beautiful thing that looks like it's a beautiful thing, but actually it's addiction and all the horrors of addiction.
Well said, Kate.
How about this one, Kate? This is from the 12 and 12. Step 10. It is a spiritual axiom that every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there's something wrong with us.
Yes.
Does that not apply to this? I mean,
it applies. There's always something wrong with me.
Yeah, exactly. You know, how do they say it? If I'm not the problem, there's not a solution.
I never heard that.
Yeah, they say it here all the time. It seems like I hear it way too much. I do not want to be the problem, you know. But in other words, I got to look within. You know, I got to look within is where my answers are.
And that's step work. It's fourth stepping, basically.
It is. It's everything we do, really, all of this truth that we learn, no matter if we're reading it from a 2,500-year-old document or a 100-year-old document or 80-year-old document. It doesn't matter. Or a blog post from yesterday. If it's not telling us to look within, it's probably not the truth. If it's telling us to blame someone else for our issues, then I would think twice. So I'd get a second opinion, because not only, if we're the problem, that means that we have the solution too. That should be an encouraging thing, not a discouraging thing.
That is encouraging, because we can resolve our own issues.
Yes, we have everything we need already. It's already there. We don't have to go looking for it somewhere else. It's all within already.
It's a skill, though. You have to, for me, I had to, still have to build up a skill, because in addiction, in active addiction, there's no grounding in that. There's no, there's no feeling, there's no sense of settlement when you're in the throes of addiction, except when you're taking drugs.
Kate, what you're saying is so true, and that's so applicable, that if I'm looking within, I'm probably going to be grounded. I'm not going to be chasing something off that's not going to be to my best interest.
Yeah.
So probably that thing I'm looking at is that you're looking at that's the wrong, or the drug, the whatever it is probably outward, not within, right?
Right.
Yeah. Did you have something, Lala? Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say what was kind of one of my things I wanted to, I don't like the word resolution, but for the year of not looking externally to find stillness, because it's not sustainable. It's just avoidance, or it's a distraction, and I'm talking about external and other things than drugs and alcohol. Just anything external is not sustainable. You really do have to go within to get grounded for serenity.
Mm-hmm.
So the still is the master of unrest. So where do we find the stillness? That's what we're talking about.
Where do you find it?
Right? And in being still, we remain unattached and calm. So, what is our warning to tell us that we're not remaining unattached and calm? What can we see as a red flag for this? For me, it's losing my peace.
And it's anxiety.
Yeah. It's if I'm upset in some way, if I'm disturbed, like I just read from page 90 in the 12 and 12, I need to say, whoa, wait a minute. Why am I disturbed? Used to, that disturbance could go all day long, and I wouldn't even realize I was disturbed. And I would be knee deep in it. I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I mad? I've been mad all day. Why is this? Now I lose it, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't like that anymore. Why am I angry? And I see it so much faster. Not always as quick as I need to, but I see it faster than I used to. So it's definitely a process, but man, we have such great tools that we learn. We are so fortunate in how we learn to look at life. That's good.
It was interesting with the Wayne Dyer translations. He was talking about circumstances, and being back at work today, I've managed to catch up on a couple of the podcasts. And Sean Croxton had one, and Ram Dass was talking about "You're not your circumstances." I think it's just interesting the way it's came up. We were talking about not being your thoughts, but Ram Dass was talking about "You're not your circumstances" as well. So if you're rooted in addiction, that's the circumstance, but you're not that circumstance. There's always a way out. and he was talking about how to find the best way for you, and he was saying that, you know, usually the best way out is within you. So if somebody else is saying it, must be true.
You have the choice in every moment, so you can decide to be a host to God and carry around with you the calmness that is the Tao, or you can be a hostage to your ego, which insists that you can't really help feeling disorderly when you're in circumstances that resemble pandemonium. Host or hostage? Which do we want to be?
Host.
Host. Right now I want to be a host. Choose stillness. His doing the Tao is about, he says that he has an affirmation for this week too. I have the ability to stay poised and centered regardless of what goes before me. That is his affirmation for the week. And his do the Tao now is to sit in a quiet place. Let's do this real quick. We've got time.
Yeah.
Good on time today. Let's do this one. Sit in a quiet place and picture the one person with whom you have some kind of long-standing conflict. Picture that person sitting there before you. Now say out loud, directly to him or her, I forgive you. I surround you with love and light. And I do the same for myself. This will put the message of the 26th verse of the Tao Te Ching to work for you by bringing about a sense of calm. That's doing a fourth step. I forgive you. I surround you with love and light. And I do the same for myself. That is the actual action to bring up, to get you back into that calm place. Yep. It's, you know, we have the answer. We have the answer, guys.
And thank goodness for that.
How much, how do y'all handle resentments? When you have an issue with someone, you know, we're taught in the program, what are you grinning about, Craig?
Nothing. I've had this conversation with you.
Oh, my God.
You know how I handle resentments. I handle them long. I handle them for a long time. I like to think of my resentments.
You like to play with them and just...
Get them around a bit, yep.
You know, we're taught, you know, if you look in the big book, 552 talks about resentments and that you pray. The example given there is praying for someone for 2 weeks for what you want. And then if you'll do that, even if you don't mean it, even if, you know, the words are empty words, do it anyway. And you'll see that you come to mean it over a course of time. So it's one of those acting our way into right thinking. Sometimes we just have to take the action, be it empty or not, and we'll follow that action. Our heart will follow that action. So, and that's what Dyer's talking about here, is he didn't say do it if you felt like it, or you do it if you felt they wronged you. He said, just do it.
Yes, just do it.
Just do it. You know, just do it.
I've pretty much followed that advice when I have a resentment against another person, is try and pray for them as much as possible.
I have a sliding scale.
It takes a while to forgive somebody if they've really wronged you.
Well, and it's not for their benefit, Marla. It's for yours.
Right.
It's not to benefit them. Chances are they'll probably they may never know that that this is going on. It may be something where you have to do a physical amends or talk to them. But for the most part, most resentments or anger I have, the person I'm angry at never even knows I'm angry at them, because a lot of it's not even real stuff.
Or they don't realize they've done something to you. And
right.
It's not intentional, so it's just ignorance. It's ignorance on their part.
And for the most part, people don't really understand that they've hurt you. They don't know that they've hurt you. And so there seems to be no point in getting angry with them. Since they're ignorant, they are ignorant. So
a lot of times my anger is based on fear on my end.
Most usually isn't it? That's what I've always come down to, is fear of rejection. Mm-hmm. Seems to be my basis.
There's our pride, something to do with my pride or ego. I mean, it's always, and something deep down that, I don't want them to, some base fear for me really is the majority of it. But I've got a scale I use. I'll start with praying the will of God for them. I want to do the least I have to do. If I've got someone that I need to deal with a resentment. I mean, I want to do the very least. I'll show y'all my scale. This is my scale. It's like a dial. Starts over here and goes this direction. So I up the ante if I don't get relief, right? So I just do as much as I need. So I start with praying the will of God for them. I could do that for anyone. No matter how mean or evil the person is, I could pray the will of God for them. Because that's not good or bad. Sometimes that's enough. If not, I'll pray for good things for them. If that doesn't work, I'll pray everything for them that I want. And I'll keep doing that. And if that doesn't work, now I try to skip on to sending love their way, and I'll start thinking loving thoughts toward them, at this point. And if none of that works, I'll try to do something good for them if I can, some way. And if none of that works, I'll have to spend money on them. I'll figure out a way to do something for them. And if it gets down to that, then or spend time with them. That's mainly with family and folks I know, that I would have to do. But or like, for example, if I have a resentment, let's say I have a resentment against the State Patrol because they gave me a ticket. Okay, I can pray for them. I pray every time I see a car. I smile every time I smile at the Georgia State Patrol car. Have you ever tried smiling? Just smiling? And it makes you feel better. I don't know what that is. It looks dumb as dirt if somebody saw me doing it, But it works.
It's contagious.
Yes. So I'll do that. I'll pray for every officer I see. Now, I haven't had any kind of resentment against them in years, but this is the way I dealt with it. And if I use this as an example, and then if I could not get over it, I'd find some benevolent organization to make a donation to that benefited the State Patrol. If I had to, I'd spend money. But like if I've got family members that I have issue with, next time we're all out to eat, I buy their dinner. And I do that because it's a way for me to, make an amend and get over those things if I have any kind of resentment there. But the important thing is that's not for them, it's for us, because all of this goes back to us being able to live undisturbed, a life of peace and joy, so that no matter what's going on, that we're free, that we're free.
Something interesting just happened when we were doing that exercise. Just when you're looking at the person and you're thinking good things about them, and then you're talking about base fears. Now, I've just came to the realization that my base fear is of being wrong, and that this other person's right. But I don't have that maturity that I can let it go yet. I still want to.
As long as you're aware that you don't have the maturity yet.
There's something in me that still wants me to say, yeah, but are you sure you aren't wrong and I'm right?
Something I'm working on, Craig, is surrendering, number one, the need to be right. Number two, the need for someone to be wrong.
Well, I'm a married man, so I'm never right, so I can cross that off my list.
That's true.
But there's so much down deep that it takes so many years to get honest enough, really, to where we're able to deal with these things. But the more we deal with, the more peaceful life we can have, and the more of those, more of those 10,000 chariots that won't get out of control on us.
That's a visual.
Oh. That's all about surrender. This whole thing's surrender, It's surrender, because the stillness is what does it. It's not education. It's not manipulation. It's stillness that manages the unrest. The disturbance is managed by stillness, which goes back to the emptiness we were talking about.
Right.
What is it about stillness that's so great?
It's empty.
Yes. Yes. Because the answers are not of our own accord. It's about us learning to let go and learning to be and laying aside those ego-driven assignments that we give ourselves. And letting that stuff go, surrendering it. Good stuff. Any other comments, guys? That's good.
Yep.
So it's about living undisturbed. If I'm disturbed, I need to look inside and see why I'm at unrest, and turn those things over. And that we have the ability to live an undisturbed life if we learn to let go.
That'd be nice.
I think we're all getting there, though, don't you think? I mean,
as best as possible. I don't, it's for humans. I don't think we'll ever get there 100%. But I think it's just a practice.
But look now, Marla. Let's say, okay, it's first of the year, a year ago. Are you at rest more now than you were a year ago? That's
Probably.
A legitimate question.
Yeah, definitely. Because, my yoga practice has evolved, and I've evolved. Yeah, I work at it, of course, which is what we have to do if we want to be in recovery, is work at it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm definitely at rest more than I was a year ago.
Yeah.
And I think we all can say yes to that, right? So I think that's the goal, is to keep this maturing. I was listening to someone, they were talking about you could liken this walk to climbing a mountain. People get to particular places, see particular views, and they stop. They say, well, I'm happy with this. And then others keep going up, and they'll stop at different places, and some stop and stay, and some will stop for a little while and then start again, and all of that. And it's really none of our business where other people stop. It's up to us at where we want to stop, or if we want to stop at all, or get to, like what you were talking about, Marla, and get to a place of peace and everything, a place of rest, So we'll see, and I'm still climbing. That's for sure.
Yeah, if one of my things is I have to be perfect at recovery, and I wanted to be well right away. I've had to surrender to the fact that that's never going to happen. It's a practice. Things will evolve. I'll evolve. So
that's what perfection, I think, is, Marla, is being open and being surrendered to that. Because I don't think we'll ever do this entirely perfect in our thinking. It'll never be. But we can definitely have peace and joy in more moments of our day.
Yeah,
That's what I'm after.
sort of more realistic. If you think about evolution of humans, the Tao Te Ching was written 2,500 years ago. Same with Buddha, the sutras and all that. We haven't evolved in 2,500 years. I mean, we're still talking about stuff that was written 2,500 years ago and trying to attain that. Humans haven't really evolved since. Humans haven't evolved. That's all I'm going to say.
And that was written about the ancients of that time.
Exactly.
So it was much more than just 2,500 years ago.
Exactly. So, you know what? We're just trying to be better human beings. We're under construction. That's all I can say.
Yep. Okay, guys, that's good. I think we got some good meat out of that. Do y'all have anything else to add, or we're going to stop it there? We good?
We're good. Nice to meet you, Lala.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Oh, don't forget, we are starting the Letting Go meeting on Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you like this, I think you're going to like that, because it really all is it's how to turn your will and your life over to the care of God, really is what it is. It's how to do step 3. How to do a third step really is what it's about. It's about how to surrender, and example after example of surrender and how to do it, really. And it's made a big difference for me. I just finished reading the whole book and marking it up and, all that. And but I've listened to it multiple times and still listening again to sections of it. So, but I hope to see you guys Monday night. If not, I'll see you next Thursday, hopefully.
I will be there Monday night.
Good. Y'all have a great week.
You too.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. For more information about the SRC, go to thesharepodcast.com. Share is spelled SHAIR, and look for the Share Recovery Community link. When you join the SRC, you will be able to participate in this meeting and many more live, plus access to a video library of past meetings and many more benefits for being a part of this growing community. Thanks again for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share this podcast with your friends in recovery.